Hello everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to another Sunday video. You guys, listen. Do you hear anything? I hear Layla's pitter-patter feet on the floor, but other than that, the house is quiet. School has started. We can now do Sunday chats without any interruptions, and I thought I would feel more excited about that, but I kind of miss the loud house. But we're doing okay. Me and Layla are enjoying the peace and quiet too. So welcome back to another Sunday video. I like to talk about more spiritual things on Sunday, some encouragement for you. Life can get overwhelming and it can get hard, and I'm so thankful that I have my faith, that I have God to lean on those times, because I don't know what I would do without it. So I like to share some encouragement with you guys on Sundays. And today I'm going to talk about something that I feel like so many of us deal with, and I've dealt with ever since I became a mom, but I don't think you have to be a mom to have these type of feelings, and that is guilt. So let me give you some backstory. Mark has had a really hard time. I say really hard. He's had a little bit of a hard time with preschool. I've talked about it some on the vlog. He is the baby of the family, and he is of all my kids, I call him my Velcro baby, because he has always been really clingy to me. None of my other children were like this. Like, you know, the whole like clinging to mom as the baby, not wanting anybody else to hold them. That was Mark. None of my kids were like that except him. Leaving him at the nursery was hard when he was a baby. We've moved several times in his life. We had COVID when he was a baby going around, and so we just weren't around. I think a lot of it is we weren't around people that much. We don't live close to family. He is used to like going to church class. He's used to going and stuff like that, but usually he has his sister with him. And so I kind of knew starting school might be a little bit hard for him. It's a big change going from being at home every single day, all day, to going to school Monday through Friday for the majority of the day. And so we've had some tears, and we've had some, just not happiness. And he loves school when he's there, which I'm very thankful for. They're like, he doesn't cry, but just a few minutes, but he's pretty much cried every single day we've left him. And the first day that he cried so bad, the first day he was okay, but then the second day he went, it's like he knew it was going to be what it was going to be, like all day, And so I feel like the second day was harder. And when I had to leave him and he was like clinging on to me and he was sad and screaming for me, the first thing that went through my head was, I must have done something wrong. This has to be something I've done wrong, because all the other kids are sitting there in their chair, they're all just like fine. All these like 20 other kids, and Mark is the one that's having a hard time. So I immediately felt, I don't know if you guys, like, people say God told me this, and I'm always like, before I kind of knew what they meant earlier on in my adult walk with Christ, I would be like, okay, how did you hear God say that? Was it like a voice? But it was just like a thought that comes into my mind, and I like feel it deep. And I just felt God say, stop comparing yourself. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I felt him say, stop comparing yourself, because immediately I thought I did something wrong. Maybe I should have had him in daycare. Maybe I should have, left him more often. Maybe if I had put him in daycare earlier, then he would be more adjusted. Maybe he wouldn't be so picky eating. And I think as moms, we can take on our children's, struggles that they have and make ourselves feel guilty about it. And I felt God say, stop comparing yourself. The moms that had to put their kids in daycare, they're feeling guilty about that choice. So no matter what you're doing with your kids, the mom guilt is real. It starts out when they're babies. And I remember Nate would not breastfeed. I think I did for like 6 weeks. It was a struggle. I remember feeling so guilty when I stopped breastfeeding him, because you hear everybody say that breastfeeding is best. And I just thought as a first time mom that it was going to be, I don't know why I thought this, it was going to be easy. And of course I'd be able to do it. And so when I had to stop and give him formula, I felt super guilty. I felt super guilty about that. There's been so many times in my life where I have felt guilty. I think whether we're stay-at-home moms, work-at-home moms, work outside the home moms, and our kids are going to daycare, whether we are making all homemade food or our kids are picky and we're feeding them frozen chicken nuggets or whatever, we can feel guilty. We can feel like we're doing something wrong. And I think that is so much like the enemy to get us to feel down about ourselves, to get us to blame ourselves. And here's the bottom line. Our kids were given to us by God, and he knew the exact situation that we would be in, and anything that isn't perfect about their life, he uses to work for their good. And so I think it's so dumb how like my first thought was, well, maybe I should have him in daycare, or maybe I should have put him in daycare earlier. It's like, but that wasn't what was best for our family at the time. And so all we can do is do what's best for our family at the time that we have. And maybe you're not a mom, but I feel like this is just such a universal thing. We can feel guilty no matter what we're doing. We can start comparing our situation to what someone else is going through. I mean, we all have issues. We all have things we struggle with. I have struggled with my weight my whole entire life. And I look at some people who are naturally thin and I feel like, well, it's not fair. Like they don't have the same struggle, but they have other stuff. Like we all have stuff we're working through, and nobody's life. I really try to show this on the vlogs, and I'm not perfect at showing everything perfectly real life because I don't want to pull the camera out and show like a meltdown of a toddler or whatever. But I try to show as real life as I can, because I think that when we see other people's Instagram pictures and all these like perfectly curated videos, we think that, well, they don't have any problems and I'm the one that's dealing with this. And we can like just turn it into like a pity party and feel like, well, maybe God is disappointed in me. Maybe I've failed. And I think it's just such a lie of the enemy. And not only that, but if you go on any Facebook group, the stay-at-home moms are attacking the work-at-home moms, and the work-at-home moms are attacking the stay-at-home moms and saying, like, what do y'all do all day? Yeah, if I had all that time, I would get stuff done. And the stay-at-home moms are saying, well, why are you working? If I, you should be at home. And, there's just, there's just so much that we turn on each other too. And ultimately, what we have to remember is we are not in any competition with each other. I love the analogy, and I hear it every single time anybody talks about comparison. But when we just have the Olympics, and when those runners are on the track, they have to stay in their lane. If they start looking to the side of them, they will lose focus. It is not about trying to compare yourself. You're running your own race. And even more so, like in our day-to-day life, we are not on the track with anyone else. We are running our own race. And my prayer is that, God, I want to do everything I can to please you with my life, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm supposed to do on a daily basis. So just help me to do it to the best of my ability with your help. And so, and two, like with this whole thing with Mark, some kids are just more sensitive than others. Like I said, like my other two kids, they both started in preschool too. They never went to daycare, but they started and they were completely fine. They didn't care at all that I left them. They're like, bye, see you later. So some things we put on ourselves, it's just not even something that we can even help. He would have probably cried for daycare and I would have felt bad then. And so, we do the best with what we have. I remember thinking before I became a mom, Like, my kids are going to eat whatever I cook them, and there's just not going to be any bones about it. And like, you become a mom and you realize, like, there's some things that are out of your control. Like, most things are out of your control. Whether your kid eats something one day, doesn't the other, like, whether they sleep through the night. I remember Nate, there's so many lessons with Nate. Nate, my autistic son, of course, when he was a baby, we didn't know that he had autism, but he was a terrible sleeper. And I would see all of my friends have babies around his same age, or a lot of them did. And I would see all of these posts on Facebook. I would get so mad because they would say, like, my baby's sleeping through the night and all this stuff. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But it wasn't anything I was doing wrong. That was just how he is. That's how he still is. And that's his personality. And then when it came to potty training, y'all, I didn't think I was going to make it through potty training Nate. I sat on the floor in the bathroom with him many a day and cried and stayed up at night crying and researched and read books. And if I could go back and tell myself anything during that season, it would just be to chill, because he eventually figured it out. It just took him years longer than other kids his age. When we were going through that, I thought that was something I could fix. If I read the next book, if I, talked to the next mom who had already done this, like, there was something I was missing. When reality was, it just took him longer. And I tell everyone now that has a child, like, especially with autism or some other type of disability, like, stop stressing about it. I know it's hard, but all we can do is support our kids, give the rest to God. And I wish I spent so much time worrying about that. And I look back now and I'm like, it wasn't a big deal. But back then, to me, that was a huge deal. And I was so worried. But look at him now. He's totally fine. And he's potty trained, and he has been for years. So I wanted to share this Bible verse with you guys, because this just kind of sums up what I'm talking about. And, comparison is the thief of joy. If you start looking around at other people and what they have and how their kids act and how their marriage is and how, look at them, they have all these friends and I feel alone. And look at them, like, they don't have any problems with money. You don't know what other people are dealing with, but it doesn't matter. Like, you are responsible for yourself. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. The only person you're trying to please with your life is God. That's it. And if we could all live like that, we would have much more peaceful, joyful, and faith-filled lives, because every single time we compare ourselves or our situation or our kids, not only do we lose our peace and our joy, but we lose our faith in God. Because God has given you the children He's given you. He's put you in this situation, and we start blaming Him for not being as good to us as someone else, and it can make us feel like He's unfair, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. But that's what the enemy would like you to believe. Okay, so this verse is from Galatians 1:10, and it says, "I am now trying to win the. Am I now?" Let me restart this. Am I now trying to win the approval of a human being or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of God, of Christ. What are we trying to do with our life? We're trying to please God, right? And so the enemy whispers these little lies to us as moms that maybe we're doing something wrong. What does this person think? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And when I take a step back, I know that. But it's so easy to believe the lies of the enemy. He's so cunning. It doesn't feel like the enemy's whispering to us. It feels like our own thoughts, but it is the enemy. As soon as I left him crying, my thought was, I've done something wrong. Was that a thought that I just had, or was that a lie from the enemy? It was a lie from the enemy. And then immediately I had the feeling of, stop comparing yourself. The moms who had to put their kids in daycare probably felt guilty too. Moms feel guilty. And I don't want my kids to get that same trait. Like, I want them, when they grow up to not have these same thoughts and to walk in freedom from that. And so I don't know if this is making any sense to anybody. I always say this because I always doubt myself, but I don't know if you're having a hard time, if you feel like, you know, other people have it better, or God has forgotten you, or, our kids are going to grow up, and what if they decide to walk away from God? Do we take on that guilt? Our children make their own decisions. All we can do is try to raise them with the truth. But ultimately, that's a scary thought. The decision to follow Christ is up to them. It's up to them. They're the ones that have to make that decision. And I hear of moms whose children have fallen away, and they're praying for them to come back. But there's also that guilt of, what did I do wrong? And so I think that's such a lie of the enemy to distract us, and to make us feel discouraged. So I hope this made sense. I hope this helped. It's what I'm trying to think. Every single time I drop him off, he's still crying. But I know it's for his best. And sometimes we have to do things that we know is best for our children, even though it's hard for us. So let's end today's video with a little prayer. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you so much for my friends. Thank you so much for this day. God, I just pray for every single person that's comparing themselves, feeling less than, maybe feeling like they've made a wrong decision or something is their fault. God, I just pray that you would wrap them in your love and your grace. God, help us to see that we are not in competition with anybody else. God, we're running our own race. The only person we're trying to please with our life is you. God, I pray that they're able to give their life to you and surrender all of the things to you, because you are the one that makes our path straight. And they can put down the comparison game and the expectations of others, and they can just be in step with you on the path you have for their life. I thank you for the person that's watching this, God. I just pray you would go throughout their day with them. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So the kids aren't here, but Layla is, and she's standing here crying. So somebody has to interrupt. I was praying, Layla. So anyway, peace out. I hope you guys are having a good week. I will see you next time. If you like the video, make sure you give it a big paws up, thumbs up. Right, Layla? And I will see you guys next time. Subscribe if you're new, share it with a friend. I'll see y'all later.